Today is Friday, 5th July 2024. Good morning and welcome to this week's final edition of Front Page here on AYV, Channel 33 on Radio 101.7 FM and via our mobile app. My name is Toloma Suma. Front Page comes up at 11 a.m. from Mondays to Fridays, and in the program, we review and analyze stories, findings, and events from our daily local tablets across the country. In the studio, I have with me a journalist, Melvin Tijan Mansare. Good morning.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning.
We'll be also expecting another person as when he comes, then we will also usher him in the studio. Well, viewers, be reminded the views of guests are not the views of AYV. And to start the show, let's start with our own AYV newspaper, which costs 4 new Leones. And the AYV newspaper will have Tourism Ministry, National Tourist Board promotes Sierra Leone to the world. And the awareness newspaper, we have HE Madabio receives 4 ambassadors. Another newspaper here, the Awoko newspaper reads, 613 pilgrims from Mecca to be screened for 14 viruses. Mining Minister updates Sierra Leone on sector's progress. We also have the Global Times, and it reads, MCC National Coordinator describes MCC Compact as a milestone achievement. VP Jules Dejalo says Sierra Leone is ready and open for investment. Also, we have from Daybreak newspaper, over 480 million United States dollars MCC Compact Fund, U.S. Ambassador Brian Hunt drops bombshell. We also have the Independent Observer. It has a banner headline, Acting Chief Justice hands over weapons to Small Arms Commission. Bioscience Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2024. On the AZ newspaper, it reads, in performance delivery address, Speaker showcases achievement of 6th Parliament. President Bio celebrates 1 year of performance delivery, consolidated gains. We also have the exclusive newspaper that has tripartite recommendations to be implemented before releasing $480 million MCC funds. That's stories on the exclusive newspaper. On the Forum newspaper, it reads, Sierra Leone on the precipice of change. Will rule of law save us? That's a question there on the Forum newspaper. And on the Women's Voice, we have Minister of Health acts to save more pregnant women. President and First Lady narrow gender gap. Korea Honorary Council feeds 160,000 in 500 schools. SLPP Young Generation speaks on tripartite recommendations. Finally, we have the Salon Compass, and it reads, the ungodly man of God destroying SLRSA. Corruption, unilateral suspension of driver's license production. Toke Land Saga, Lands Minister in grand corruption. So this morning, these are the stories we have on the local tablets in the country. So welcome again, Melvin, to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on the program.
So as usual, I want to start with the AYV, that is Tourism Ministry, National Tourist Board promotes Sierra Leone to the world. We, as in Sierra Leone, we as journalists, many times we visit places across the country to cover stories. But personally, have you ever taken this venture to say, okay, as Melvin, let me just go and do a tour around Sierra Leone as a tourist. Have you ever been interested in such venture?
Well, I'll tell you, personally, I will tell you no, except for work and other family affairs. And that is owing to the fact that we need to cultivate more of the domestic tourism culture. And well, I don't think I'll be alone on this one, for the fact that if you want to, for example, go to Bo for now, you imagine the transport cost, you imagine you have to pay for hotel or reservation, and you'll have to leave. And looking at the economic situation in the country, it's not enticing for domestic tourism. But that is not to say we must not develop domestic tourism, because at the end of the day, if we can nurture it, I think there is much more to be gained out of it, because we have several touristic sites in Sierra Leone. We have a good number of monuments and lyrics that are worth visiting. But at the end of the day, you know, go left for go fencing for it, you say you go on vacation. Yeah. That's quite unrealistic. So that's just the fruits of the matter.
So, in your view, what exactly do you think the tourism ministry should be doing? Because we are seeing them now going outside to promote Sierra Leone and promote Sierra Leonean tourism. So, but we in the country are not taking it to that level.
I think it's important, but we cannot galvanize international tourism if we fail to mobilize the Sierra Leone diaspora. Okay. Because at the end of the day, the only person that can sell Sierra Leone abroad is the Sierra Leonean. And if the Sierra Leonean abroad is not even willing to come to Sierra Leone, how will that Sierra Leonean be in a position to encourage a foreigner to come and visit? So we must mobilize the diaspora community, but above all, we must salvage the economy. Because if things are nice and cash is flowing, people are ready to take these adventures. But you cannot take an adventure with an empty stomach or an empty pocket. So yes, there is a lot of work to be done, and it's good that they are galvanizing internationally, but you need the Sierra Leoneans there to market the country.
Okay, you cannot embark on tourism without an empty stomach, says there.
With an empty stomach and empty pocket.
Yes, you know. So that takes me to the Global Times, wherein the Vice President, Julia Jallo, is saying Sierra Leone is ready and open for investment.
Well, as a matter of fact, global indicators coming out, or indices, are showing that doing businesses in Sierra Leone is not the most palatable, but I think the country has made significant strides. Because if you look at, for example, registration timing and going around documentation, there is some semblance of improvement. That is not to say when people go to Office of the Registrar General, they don't encounter problems. If you go there, in fact, that office is behind technology. So how can you say we are open for business when the institutions that are there to make sure that businesses are well registered and follow the rules are also undercapacitated? So I think the Vice President might be making a point. I don't know what specific fact he's speaking to, but if it's about the rhetoric, Sierra Leone is ready and open for investment, that will be a subject for argument. Because if you do that comparatively to, for example, Guinea is having more investors than Sierra Leone. I cannot say same for Liberia, because I've not done a research on that. So let's just limit ourselves or our scope to that of the Mano River Basin and see which country among Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone and Ivory Coast is more attractive to investors. We want investors. Sierra Leone is ready and open for investment. I think we should not be telling, we should be showing how ready we are. Okay. Because at the end of the day, we still have companies that are complaining. We still have investors that are complaining monopoly. We still have investors that are complaining foreign exchange and inflation. All of these are indices and indicators that impedes the smooth flow of business. So I think the Vice President might be making a rhetoric, but if we are to ascertain that with the facts, a lot of work needs to be done. towards this direction.
Okay, thank you very much, Melvin. I have been joined by Mr. Amadou, another journalist. As you're just coming in, we are discussing Sierra Leone's readiness for investment as claimed by the Vice President. Looking at the political situation in the country, do you think Sierra Leone is really ready for investment as claimed by the Vice President?
Well, after the June 2023 election, we all know it was clear that Sierra Leone was not 100% safe for investment, owing to the fact that we have this political scuffle between the main opposition and that of the ruling government. But since we've gone past that now, with the tripartite reports being out, it is clear that you can say there is an environment for trust, for political trust in terms of investors. They will now think that the opposition and the main government, they're working together in order to ensure that development is in the country. But then what we need to look at when it comes to investments, really, members in the private sector, especially big companies, mining companies, factories, who've been complaining about the infrastructure. Which infrastructure? I'm talking about the electricity. And we know we still have a lot to do with that. And if you want to encourage investment, some of these infrastructural developments really need to be very much adequate for private investment encouragement, so to speak. And we can only be able to do most of these things if we try to, because we already know the problems we have. It's about implementing the solutions that we've been suggesting all this while. The ground space, we all have this normal saying, Sierra Leone is a virgin ground, so to speak. We still have a lot that we have not yet tapped into. And it is true, but what do we need to do? Create that space. And also we should create a space where our local investors will deem it fit to say there is an environment that we can invest and we have security. We do not need to politicize investments, because we've seen the cases where people will come with fine projects. They ended up not being an investment in this country simply because they have a political connection. But if we get all of this out of the way, I believe when it comes to real-time development, as Melvin stated earlier, and not just the ethics, I believe that we're getting somewhere in terms of development, investment-wise.
Okay, since we have so many stories, so we'll also connect that to what the Daybreak newspaper is saying here. Over 480 million MCC Compact Fund, U.S. Ambassador Brian Hunt drops bombshell. I think the bombshell here is talking about the next stage of the compact. The Congress in the U.S. has to, approve the compact before they can really release these funds. So, Melvin, what's your take towards that?
The Americans these days, they are confusing us, and we need to open our eyes and follow the geopolitical dynamics. The other day, Donald Trump was saying, in terms of foreign policy, America is an embarrassment. And now I begin to understand what Donald Trump is saying. So I will not venture into this article, since you will come back to tell us what the bombshell is. But I will go to the MCC's website, and there is a press release there dated on the 26th of June. It says, MCC board approves grants for partnerships in Belize and Sierra Leone. Washington, June 26, 2024. I will read two excerpts of it. Today, the Millennium Challenge Corporation MCC Board of Directors approved compact grant investments in the energy and education sectors in Belize and in the energy sector in Sierra Leone. MCC investments are designed to spark economic growth, reduce global poverty, promote democracy, and directly benefit people in need. Now let's talk about Sierra Leone. In Sierra Leone, so now you come to realize why I said the Vice President was only making a rhetoric. Now listen what the Americans are telling us. Whether it's true or not, we'll hold it for that. In Sierra Leone, 70% of the population does not have access to electricity. The MCC compact with Sierra Leone is important for its potential to deliver affordable energy for 4.6 million people. Approval of the $480 million investment reflects the MCC's board recognition of the progress made to implement the agreement for national unity, including the delivery of the draft Electoral Review Committee report, which is expected to be finalized and published in the coming days. These actions taken to date represent a critical advancement of efforts to strengthen Sierra Leone's democratic and electoral institutions following the June 2023 election. In making its decision to approve, the board also noted the need for continued progress towards implementing meaningful electoral reform through peaceful dialogue and inclusive political processes, including the near-term publication of the Electoral Review Committee report. So, for me, the bombshell there is, looking at just what I have read, the bombshell should be, this money is tied to preconditions.
Yes.
Of course, the precondition here is there should be political stability, in summary. And also it means, despite the publication and presentation of the National Unity Agreement, which the US ambassador himself in one occasion commended, it shows that we are still not out of the woods. For the fact that if something goes wrong, it might affect the compact. But again, the body of the document is saying MCC board approved.
Yeah.
So if you have approved, I don't know if there's any other word, perhaps we'll say semi-approved. But let me just see what is the bombshell.
The bombshell there is saying we must implement the tripartite recommendations before there is a release of the fund.
All right. Yes, in a recent interview with AYB Television, U.S. Ambassador David Bryant Hunt disclosed that the U.S. Congress has insisted that Sierra Leone must implement the tripartite committee recommendations before the disbursement of the $480 million MCC. So, this is confusing indeed. If the MCC is saying they've approved, and now Brian Hunt is telling us that the Congress is saying until and unless the recommendations, so it's a double standard. Who are we to trust here? The ambassador or the MCC? MCC said they've approved, and now Brian Hunt is saying until, well, in fact, this is a blind spot. When will the over 80 recommendations of the tripartite be implemented?
Well, if you continue reading, he also said that all of these things will take a short time. Is
he the man now calling the shots here in Sierra Leone? For me, I think Mr. Hunt is doing a good job, but he's overreaching as a diplomat. I am sensing him meddling into our domestic politics in a lot of ways. Okay. He made comments about Sarah Rutile, and now he's making comments that are contrary to what the MCC is saying. So perhaps we need a clarification. He said, importantly, he said Congress has indicated that it wants to see the final report from. So the Congress itself is in a funny position. How can MCC approve a grant and Congress is now coming to say, giving preconditions? Should they not have given these preconditionalities before the approval of the grant? So, we have a lot to learn on this one.
Maybe it's just part of administrative, structure. Well, MCC board here has approved, and then it has to go further to Congress.
As Melvin have stated earlier, on the 26th, when this news broke, it gave a lot of confidence to many Sierra Leoneans who are hoping that we'll finally get this grant, so that we can improve on our electricity sector in this country. And it is very, very important that that happens. And of course, we all know that the MCC, there is an indicator that you have to pass in order for you to be fully given the opportunity to reach at that stage. Sierra Leone, we've gone too far with the other projects, which brought us to this level of the compact, right? And of course, we all know that the discussions around these grants was almost coming to fall after our election. And now we have the tripartite committee being formed to say the MCC have approved and to come back and tell us that it is tied to the implementation, right, of the tripartite committee reports, right, the implementation of those recommendations.
And how soon are we going to see this? Because most of the recommendations need to be discussed as well by the public.
Of course.
There are lots of
constitutional review issues,
yes,
yeah.
Constitutional review issues. So are you telling us that this grant is only going to be available when we've done with all the recommendations? So it's a little bit not clear. And as Melvin is saying, these diplomats really have to be very careful when they speak up to issues. They need to be in that they don't want to be seen taking political side or playing any political gimmick, so to speak.
Can I just interject by saying, and quoting the second paragraph, Ambassador Hunt explained that while the MCC board has approved the compact, the next step involves informing Congress of their intent to sign. Congress, if further informed, will then designate period to either approve or raise questions regarding the compact. So in the first place, why is the MCC now telling us that it has been approved? This is a semi-approval. It is a semi-approval because MCC has approved something that has not been assented by Congress. What if Congress rejects it?
Well, what I understand is that on their own part as a corporation, they have looked into some of the issues, right, put forward by the various international partners, and they have also looked at how Sierra Leone have implemented the recommendations, especially after the election. What the MCC recommended was that you need to have a dialogue. You need to know how to sort out this election misunderstandings that you have. So perhaps MCC have done with that stage. Now they've said to themselves, we've approved that we want to give them the grant. Congress is a seconder, so to speak. So now they are going to present a report. Sort of, I'm just saying, I'm not being let me just be the devil's advocate here. It might be in that case. So let's just wait and see.
So in all of this, do we suspect neo-colonial tendencies in all of this, wherein maybe the U.S. just wants to use this money to dictate to Sierra Leone what we should not do?
Okay, sorry, Melvin. Let me take this.
Yeah.
So for me, when it comes to democracy, we know, of course, there is no perfect democracy across the world. Having said that, the U.S. have been a critical example of how they practice a real-time democracy, so to speak. And giving these monies to developing countries as Sierra Leone, they know for you to have investment, right, to strive or to be sustainable, you should have a very democratic space so that people can freely be able to challenge issues. Now, no investor would want to invest in a country where they are not sure about that country's democracy. So for me, I think they just want to ensure that our politicians move away from that old way of politicking and think about how they can really practice the real-time democracy, so to speak.
I think this is manipulative. And the government of Sierra Leone and its foreign policy advisors must be very cautious as to how we are doing business with the U.S. Listen this paragraph. It says, importantly, he said, Congress has indicated that it wants to see the final reports from Sierra Leone's Election Commission. Hey, the final reports. And we know from the TRIPARTITE report, there is what is called a divergence view. So what if this report, the TRIPARTITE I'm just talking about, not even the Electoral Commission, the TRIPARTITE report is sent to Congress, and Congress takes a look at it and say, oh, there is a divergence view here. What's our position on this? And this comes to what I analyzed yesterday, that we've not seen or heard the voice of the third party in the TRIPARTITE. We've not. And this is what now we are seeing. They gave the process a clean bill of health. They were celebrating. But yeah, see what the politicians at Washington are saying. So between the ambassador and Washington, who are we to trust? Because the ambassador is seemingly, in one occasion, giving Sierra Leoneans hope that the whole MCC compact is here, including that of government operatives, we should celebrate. And on the other hand, now they are giving us conditionalities. It seems as if they are holding the rope and giving us the cow. Is this the kind of development we want for our country? That Western governments are going to give us preconditions, even within our own body politics? This is for APC and SLPP to understand that our problems should be solved by ourselves and not by the Americans, the Russians, or even the Brits.
So that's why I was asking about the neo-colonial tendencies. So now, since the bombshell is the tripartite committee, so I want us to move to the tripartite committee report. So do you think it will take a short time, as the Hunt is saying, that they will be implemented in a short time and that the funds will be taken into consideration the recommendations?
I know Ambassador Hunt has been well briefed by his intelligence
AYV newspaper has some of the recommendations printed. Maybe we can take
I hope that is not from the Sierra Reloaded though, because I have seen everybody is making their own summary conclusions on the recommendations. I will advise people to go and read the 540-something pages,
yes, so
and you will understand. You cannot understand the recommendations if you don't understand the findings and the case study.
Okay.
So there are three parts to these recommendations. The recommendation is the third element. The first element is the establishment of the case or the synopsis. The second element is findings, and the third one is the recommendation. So let me shock you, and perhaps the ambassador is not briefed on this. There are certain recommendations on this report that are time-bound, and there are many others that are not time-bound.
Exactly.
That is one. So where are you coming? And is this? I mean, these people, we are not munkus. Not because we are of color. You know, we are not munkus. Again, the tripartite report is saying there should be a number of constitutional reviews on the constitution, including some entrenched clauses. We know there is an ongoing constitutional review process. Fine, but what we don't know, when will this review process end?
Yeah.
We don't know. Another provision they are saying, in fact, the elephant in the room is that of classified information. You know, it's ECSL, when they want to hide in their cloak of secrecy and kukujumuku, they will just tell you that, oh, certain information are classified. But it's the same report is saying that the ECSL must cease the use of this word classifying. Yes, that is just another one. Talk about parliament. It says parliament must have a special select committee on electoral reforms review. Is parliament having the time enforcement? In fact, parliament is going on recess. Yeah. And it's if it's about parliament and if they are willing and sincere to do what is being recommended, we're talking about the next session, which will be at least 3 or 4 months after now. So what is Mr. Hunt saying? That these things are this is the kind of hope we should not be giving people, because it's false hope. Telling them that this is short time when it's going to be a long time.
It's not a short time.
This is an event. It's going to be a litany of processes.
Exactly.
So why are you giving people hope?
And
they don't want to give us the money. They only want to be manipulating our government officials because they have interests at Sierra Woodside, they're having mining interests and other interests here. Our politicians must not be ignoramus of these facts.
They don't want to give us the money, according to Melvin.
So I wouldn't subscribe to that, because I believe the Americans do have their ways of doing things. Having said that, if Ambassador Hunt is saying that the MCC grant is solely dependent on the implementation of these recommendations,
so now you see what I see?
I doubt it.
Okay.
Right? Then I will say the MCC money coming in is far-reaching, because at the end of the day, as Melvin have said, the recommendations, when it comes to implementation, several of them are not time-bound. Yeah. So when do we get to solve all these issues in this recommendation, and then now we start having the MCC scorecard? And again, what you have to know to understand is that some of these recommendations are only coming out now to the public forum. It's now the public are getting knowledge about it. You have to listen to public opinion as well. Yeah. And we haven't even gone too far with it yet, and Ambassador Hunt is telling us another thing regarding a grant that the MCC said they've approved.
Maybe the ambassador is okay with the recommendations, and then to him, these recommendations do not need further discussions. All what we need to do is just to implement.
No, you cannot say so.
That man is a diplomat. You understand? I mean, these guys are very vast in governance. You cannot take it away from people like Hunt and the Americans. But what I sense as the biggest hypocrisy here, We applied for MCC before even the elections.
And we've passed the indicators.
So how can somebody don't sit in on pass down because of plan being a class? You say if I go begin
sit exam back,
you go sit the exam back. You know, this is caricaturing.
Okay. So we can go now to another story. In performance delivery address, the Speaker showcases achievement of 6th Parliament. Maybe you are in Parliament.
Okay, so
you are in Parliament. We recently saw the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, sending journalists out of Committee Room 1. You know, how, according to him, this was for confidentiality's sake, you know, and some of the things they were dealing with were so sensitive that a journalist should not be around.
Mm-hmm. Well, I should be holding a brief for the media, but also equally so, I should be very circumspect because I am privy to the facts. All across the world, all across jurisdictions, parliaments have got their modus operandi. And the aspect of in-camera meetings is not only akin to parliament. Okay. If you travel, I have covered the ECOWAS, I have covered the Pan-African parliaments, I have covered different parliaments across the world. And there are certain issues, underline the word certain. There are certain issues, mainly security, privacy, commercial interest, that when they are discussed, many a time, even if you go to Congress, they are discussed in camera. Yeah. So it's not a crime. What is a crime here is when things that are supposed to be of public knowledge and public interest are shrugged under the rug. That is our concern as parliamentary pundits and practitioners. So let's come to the topic.
So this issue, in our own specific issue, when Honorable Tawa sent out journalists, is that particular issue about the audit recoveries. Do you see that as something that falls under the exceptions you're talking about?
Well, Parliament is a different creature because in Parliament, the Speaker and the Chairperson has got the final say. Interestingly, you aspired into my note. I'll be delivering a guest lecture to Diploma 2 students at Frabe College, and those are some of the challenges. Because you have draconian laws, such as that of Section 95 in the Constitution, that says it's a contempt of Parliament, even in summary, if you make MP or Parliament feel bad. Yeah. It's contemptuous. It's in the law. We are having a law wherein the Speaker has got this unilateral power to ask a journalist to approve or disapprove, accredit or disaccredit a journalist. So when we want to talk about these issues, we must understand the constitutional basis upon which they are thriving. Is it in tandem with best practice? I will argue no, because today we are talking about, the other day Sierra Leone came third in the Open Parliament Index. But if you are having such a situation that the press is perceiving the administration of Parliament or the political wing of Parliament of covering certain things up, just for the perception, even if it's not true, it plunges the public perception in Parliament. Sure. So many a time, I will advise politicians, if you know you don't want journalists to attend your meeting, don't open it in the first place. But you cannot be having a live stream, having huge coverage, and all of a sudden. So these are the things that they have got moral but legal implications. But arguing them will take a lot of time because it deals with the law. Yeah. And back to in performance delivery, I'm still finding. I think the biggest achievement so far. I think the biggest performance so far for this parliament is that of the prohibition of the child marriage. You cannot take it away from this parliament. And another demerit in their performance is that so unprecedented. In one session, 1 year, we've seen 2 speakers. It speaks to the consistency of the legislature. But that being said, I think so far we've been seeing very rigorous probing at the PAC. That should be an improved performance. We are seeing a more tidied up administration in terms of performance, staff going to work early. That is happening. But that is not to say all is bright and beautiful at Tower Hill. Because it's at Tower Hill we know what we know.
So the man at Sawaila just spoke about what I had to say, but having said that, in my opinion, this 6th Parliament, as you've said, one which they've done that is very, very much laudable for now, it is the prohibition of the child marriage, because it is very important. It is very, very important that our country embraces such law, and its implementation is something we look forward to seeing. And when it comes to the relationship of that of the media and Parliament, you know, Honorable Tawa, it is rather unfortunate we saw that particular scene taken up again. When this whole thing started, the media played a great role in publicizing his stance, right? Everyone was thinking that, oh no, demand don't come. We're going to fight this fight together. As Melvin have said, when it comes to accountability and transparency, Parliament do not need to sweep that under the carpet. And if you need the media in certain hearings that you wouldn't want the Parliament to be questioned or the people to doubt Parliament, then you need not to start
inviting them.
I mean, these are things we really need to think about. And also, this same Parliament who've repealed the criminal libel law and creating that space for journalists, for that freedom of press freedom, it is something that they really need to prioritize. We are not saying it is in every case that they need the media, but they should not push the media away when it comes to accountability and transparency. The people deserve to know what is going on in these hearings.
I think the speaker is beating his chest too early. How long has he been in office in the first place? He is inheriting a redundancy scandal, of which he was supposed to be the chairman to have investigated that. He is inheriting an anti-corruption probe, for which the administration of Parliament itself is to correct some of the wrongdoings. So if I were his political advisor or media advisor, I would just tell him that, tell the people that we have work to do and we are doing that work. But for you to begin to beat your chest under, is it how many months now? Less than, he's got lots. I would look forward to his 100 days in office or 3 months. But for him to be coming out because you want to give a performance to authorities, you are coming out with your scorecard. It's too early. The game has not even begun yet, started yet for the administration.
Okay, we are running out of time now. This quick one, 613 pilgrims for Mecca to be screened for 14 viruses.
Iboko.
Plenty.
Anyway, this is very serious, but
30 seconds.
It's a blessing for anybody who is a Muslim to perform that Islamic rite. So irrespective of the social or medical conditionalities now emanating from it, I think we should commend the government for the way it's handled this one, the repatriation and the whole session itself. Long ago, we used to have Alaji Saudi Arabia, Alaji Abuja, and things like that. But with this government, I think they've brought sanity on the Hajj thing. And that's good for the Islamic community. And my only saying here is, I've always said, similar pilgrimage that is being extended to Muslims to somehow on scholarship to go to Mecca should be extended to Christians also to go to Jerusalem. And for us who are the Rastas to go to Jamaica. Sierra Leone is not, let's not forget, Sierra Leone is a secularist democracy.
Yes.
We are not a theocracy, so everybody must enjoy, including even the Awo people. Yes. They must be given awards.
Yes. They should be going to the Igbo land.
Yeah, we should be going to Igbo land.
So, Mr. Amadou, the problem now here is the problem that happened in Saudi Arabia. It was the news we got was out of people died out of hate. Why are we screening for viruses?
Well, I believe you see those nations. They are built on artificial background, so to speak. And having such an occurrence, I believe that these are some of the implications. When you have countries that are built on artificial background, even some water we then get recycle and all that. So it is very, very important that these screenings are done.
and they should ensure that if they are to be put under isolation, to check them, let them know 14 diseases.
Yeah, but I don't know what level I can be left there.
Exactly. So these are things they should,
run away.
yes. So it is something that they really need to.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. We don't have any more time. This is how we bring down the curtain on this edition of Front Page. Join us again next week on Monday. I have been your presenter, Toloma Suma.